2020 presidential candidate, Democratic Congresswoman from Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard, with us right now. Congresswoman, good to have you.
Aloha, Neil.
Are you worried about the president not being worried about this?
I am, because the situation with North Korea remains very serious. You know, every single day that goes by is a day that North Korea can continue to try to strengthen their nuclear capabilities. So I think President Trump is making a big mistake here in thinking that his own personal charm or his relationship or friendship with Kim Jong-un is going to be enough to make a deal that will achieve our objective of ultimately denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula. This is a mistake because if you put yourself in Kim's position, you see how the United States has broken previous agreements that were made. You look at what happened to Gaddafi in Libya, where Gaddafi was promised, hey, if you get rid of your nuclear weapons program, we're not going to come after you. Well, the United States went after him, toppled Gaddafi. Kim looks at the Iran nuclear deal that was made to stop Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. President Trump came in and made the decision to tear that agreement up. So if you're in Kim's position, you're wondering, why should I step into making an agreement to get rid of nuclear weapons when I don't know if this president or a future president is going to decide to go back on that agreement, wage a regime change war, or do something else? So this is the problem with President Trump's kind of shoot from the hip, unpredictable foreign policy. It's short-sighted, it undermines our national security, and it makes the American people less safe.
So you want to go, when you talk about Iran, back to that deal?
I would. As President and Commander-in-Chief, I would bring the United States back into this multilateral Iran nuclear deal that all the different intelligence agencies.
Were you for that deal when President Obama signed on to it?
Like a lot of people, I had concerns about the flaws that were in the deal. I wanted a stronger deal and pushed hard for it in Congress. Ultimately, when the final deal was presented, I knew that it was a decision between this deal that we could work to strengthen in the future that would prevent Iran from gaining a nuclear weapon, or war. And I chose the route of peace and diplomacy. Let's make this deal and work to strengthen it.
All right, well, as you know, the president said that no deal was better than this deal. We can go back and forth on that. But you have been critical of a lot of people in both parties, how they handle the disturbances around the world. You had said, in talking about this, that when it comes to tensions with Russia and China and elsewhere, we're getting closer to the risk of a nuclear catastrophe. You had called out chicken hawks, as you put them, in both parties, the corporate media and the military-industrial complex, who drove us to war for their own power and profit. Now, you've served in the military. You're one of the few presidential candidates who has. What is your fear here?
Look, the concern is that nuclear strategists are saying exactly the statement that I just delivered, that we are at a greater risk of nuclear war now than ever before. And this is a risk that we've got to take seriously. This is a threat we've got to take seriously. This is something that, you know, our families and constituents and people in Hawaii had a huge wake-up call to over a year ago when we got that message that went across over 1 million people's cell phones saying, seek shelter immediately, missile incoming, this is not a drill. So people were running, they were terrified, looking, where can we find shelter? And the insanity is there is no shelter. So yes, you have people from both political parties, people here in Washington who are ratcheting up tensions between the United States and nuclear-armed countries like Russia and China, pushing us closer and closer to a nuclear war as the inevitable outcome if we continue down this path, yet they're not providing shelter for people if that outcome occurs. And that's why I'm speaking out so strongly. Speaking to voters across this country, as President and Commander-in-Chief, I will work to end this new Cold War and nuclear arms race, de-escalate these tensions, and walk us back away from this brink of nuclear catastrophe that will devastate not only our entire country, it'll devastate the world. This is what's at risk here.
Well, let me ask you a little. Ron Paul likes the kind of talk you have where he says you're very tough on foreign policy. He doesn't think you would get embedded or too involved in the Middle East. He doesn't agree with you on economics, but said you're the best candidate in there right now. But he doesn't like some of your economic views, that you might be a spender, or that you might be, I'm paraphrasing here, a typical Democrat. And that unnerves some who think that you'll just parrot whatever the line is of the party right now, you say?
Well, look, you can look at my history. We've just talked about how I don't parrot anyone else's line. My focus, my mission is on serving the American people. And as President and Commander-in-Chief, I will bring a different kind of leadership than what we've seen in the past. Yes, on foreign policy, this has been a great focus of mine because it's important to recognize we cannot separate foreign policy from domestic policy. Because we've seen how since 9/11 alone, we've spent trillions of dollars on these wasteful regime change wars.
Would that stop?
That would end under President Gabbard. I would end these wasteful regime change wars.
All right.
Work to end this new Cold War
if you're
and arms
president, would
race.
you do away with the president's tax cuts?
I think we need to overhaul our whole tax system. I think the president's tax cuts overwhelmingly benefited the rich and powerful, leaving behind the vast majority of hardworking Americans in this country.
Well, almost everybody got the tax cut, right? And now we're dealing with record low unemployment in all groups.
A lot of people benefited, but
Right.
if you look at the tax cuts, who benefited the most? It is the top of the 1%,
But
the
would you
rich
say
and powerful,
the economy is
who
booming
continue
right
to have
now? Is it
influence
stronger
over
right
our
now as a
policies
result
being
of
made.
those tax cuts?
I think you can see how GDP has gone up, unemployment has gone down, but those numbers don't tell the whole story. We have to look at the quality of life of the American people, many of whom are continuing to struggle just to make ends meet and get by.
Real quickly, then, on the impeachment, you're not for that. You're opposed to going in that direction because it would be divisive. Do you still stand by that?
I do. I do. I think it's important for the American people to make the decision in 2020 to defeat Donald Trump because his policies have not been good for our country. This is why I'm running, and I'm offering to serve them as their president, to bring about that change that puts the well-being of the American people first and foremost.
All right, and you will get that opportunity to debate those points next month. Congresswoman, very good having you. Thank you very, very much.
Aloha, Neil. Thanks.